Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Perhaps a friend or a co-worker? Well, today's story is about something much worse. A betrayal that strikes at the core. A betrayal by one's own sibling. This story comes from Portland, Oregon. My name is James Miller. I'm 42 years old. I live a simple life in Portland, Oregon. I spent the last 20 years building my construction company from the ground up. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. It gave my family a comfortable home in the suburbs, and most importantly, it gave me pride. I thought I knew the people I could trust, especially my younger brother, David. But I was wrong. David and I weren't just brothers. We were partners in everything. When we were kids, we promised to stick together through thick and thin. We had each other's back no matter what. We chased that dream until it became reality. We shared everything, our hopes, our fears, our wins and losses. 3 years ago, when he lost his job, I gave him a role in my company. David handled the books, the payroll, the contracts. I trusted him with every dollar that came through. I never imagined he would betray me. I trusted him because he was my blood. Or so I thought. It started small. A missing invoice here, a late payment there. I assumed these were mistakes. I thought, it happens to the best of us. I even blamed the bank or the accountant, never David, he was family. But Sarah, my wife, saw it. She told me, James, something's not right. The numbers don't add up. I brushed her off. It's David. He wouldn't do that. But then one night, Sarah stayed up late combing through the accounts. When I woke up at 2 a.m., I found her at the computer. Her hands were shaking. She whispered, James, look. There were dozens of transfers, money wired to an account I didn't recognize, over $150,000. It was gone. And the name on the account? David Miller. I didn't want to believe it. So the next morning I drove to David's place. He opened the door with a half smile, like nothing was wrong. David, I said, my voice shaking. Why? He laughed. He actually laughed. Come on, James. You don't need all that money. You'll be fine. I just borrowed it. Borrowed it. Like my life's work was his personal ATM. I wanted to hit him. God, I wanted to, but I didn't. Instead, I turned and walked away. That night, Sarah asked, What will you do? I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I felt something heavy break inside me. I'm going to end this my way. I didn't go to the police, not yet. Instead, I played along. I acted like nothing happened. At the office, I joked with David, handed him contracts, smiled as if I still trusted him. And all the while, I set the trap. With Sarah's help, I recorded everything, every shady transfer, every late-night phone call he made, and then the final piece, a fake investment deal, $50,000 wired to an account I controlled, and David took the bait. The next morning, 2 detectives walked into the office. Detective Harris looked at me, nodded once, then turned to David. David Miller, you're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. The color drained from his face. He looked at me, eyes wide, mouth trembling. James, you set me up. I didn't answer. I just watched as they took him away in handcuffs. That was 6 months ago. David serving 5 years in state prison. My company survived, though barely. Sometimes I sit on the porch at night, a glass of bourbon in hand, and I wonder how did it come to this? Brothers torn apart by greed. But then I remember Sarah's words. Trust has to be earned, James, even from my family. And she was right. They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from family. And I've learned sometimes the cruelest revenge isn't rage or violence. It's silent. It's letting them destroy themselves with their own greed. So, friends, what's the lesson of this story? Let's discuss. We often hear the phrase, trust is hard to earn, easy to lose. In James's case, he trusted David not just because he was his brother, but because of years of shared history, dreams, and struggles. They built their lives together. Trust was never an issue until it was. David's actions shattered that trust and in turn destroyed their relationship. This story reminds us that trust is a precious commodity that should not be taken for granted, especially within our own families. Sometimes what appears to be a brotherly bond can hide dark intentions. David's greed led him to betray his own brother. If only he had chosen honesty and integrity, perhaps their relationship could have endured. However, greed often leads to the destruction of relationships and the ruin of lives. Greed is not just a desire for material wealth, but a relentless pursuit that can consume a person entirely. In David's case, his greed blinded him to the consequences of his actions, leading him to make irreversible decisions. In the story, James could have chosen different ways to respond to David's betrayal. He could have pursued legal action immediately or even confronted David violently. But he chose a different path. He bided his time, gathering evidence and planning his revenge. His patience and strategy ultimately led to David's downfall. This teaches us that sometimes the best revenge is a well-executed plan that brings the perpetrator to justice. James's composure and intelligence in handling the situation saved him from making impulsive and potentially damaging moves. But let's think further. Is there any justification for David's actions? Some might argue that James should have shared his wealth more generously with David. However, it was David who chose to betray his brother's trust and exploit his position. Additionally, greed often stems from a lack of contentment, a desire to acquire more than what one truly needs. In this story, greed was the driving force behind David's actions. He didn't stop at just taking what he needed, but kept taking more and more, blinded by his insatiable desire for wealth. Greed is a dangerous emotion that can lead individuals down a path of self-destruction. It can warp a person's judgment, causing them to make choices they would ordinarily never consider. David's actions serve as a cautionary tale, demonstrating the destructive nature of greed and its ability to corrupt even the closest of familial bonds. Moreover, the story shows the importance of transparency and accountability in business. James's company relied heavily on his trust in David's integrity. Had there been better internal controls and regular audits, the financial discrepancies might have been caught earlier. Implementing such measures not only protects against external threats, but also internal ones. Finally, what do you admire most about James's character? Discuss. In the face of his brother's betrayal, James chose not to resort to violence or impulsive actions. Instead, he remained calm, collected, and focused on finding a way to hold his brother accountable. He demonstrated remarkable restraint and maturity, which ultimately led to David's downfall. James's decision to seek revenge on his own terms showcases his strength of character and determination to protect his hard-earned success. By waiting for the right moment to strike, he ensured that David faced justice without resorting to unethical or harmful means. James's story is a stark reminder of the destructive power of greed and the importance of safeguarding our trust and relationships. It's a story of betrayal, revenge, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Let James's journey serve as a guiding light, reminding us to approach our relationships with wisdom and discernment, to pursue our goals with integrity, and to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. Dear audience, thank you for listening to this story. I hope it brought you some insight and maybe a little bit of entertainment. If you'd like to share your thoughts or have any suggestions, feel free to drop a comment below. Your feedback is very important to us, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Before we part ways, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating content. Thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Until then, take care and stay curious.